Okay, let's begin. First, I will set the resolution of the screen to 720 multiplied by 1280. Then I have here a sound effects I needed, and here's the sprites I just imported. You can see it's a sprite mode to multiple, sprite editor here, and I just hit a slice with an automatic type and hit apply. That's all. Now we need to create a new object. Call it Flappy Bird. It's the bird object. I will attach an sprite for it. That's good. You can see it here in the scene window and in the game window also. I will make it large. That's good. Now I will attach the audio source, then a rigid body 2D. I will set the gravity in the first to 0. That's good. Now I will attach also a box collider 2D. We'll set it to 0.13 and the Y size will be 0.1. That's good. Now I will attach a Flappy Bird script. I'll create a new script for the bird. First I will remove the start and the update function. Now I will assign a rigid body 2D, my rigid body, and audio source, then private audio clip. It's an array for the bird sounds. Then I will attach a float of the flap power. I will set it to public. Now I will add a private float rotation speed. Then I will add a private boolean dead. After that I will assign a game manager script. We will get to that later, so I will comment it. Now I will add a private static float audio volume. I will set it to 1, and the rotation speed I will set it to 5 as an initial. Then I will add a private integer flapping status. Now in the start function I will set my rigid body will equal to get component rigid body 2D. Then audio source, my audio source will equal to get component audio source. And finally the game manager script will equal to game object dot find a game object with name game manager dot get component game manager. We will get to that later, but now we will comment it. Now in the void update function, if input get, no, it's the get mouse button down, it's for the tab on the screen, or input.get key down key code space. That's for the testing here in the laptop. That's the first condition for the flap function. The second condition is not dead, and the third condition is transform.position.y is lower than 4.75. I think it's it's here. First I will make it large, a little bit larger. Okay, now you can see here it's a 4.7. so if the bird is higher than a 4.7 in the y-axis, it can't flap. Okay, now for the debugging process, flap. Also, I will add a bird Z angle for the rotation of the Z angle of the bird. You can see here, when I hit flap, it turns like this. I will set it here for the debug. Now in the flap function, before we get into the flap function, I will assign a private boolean called a first flap. So if it's the first flap, I will set it to true, and the rigid body of the bird will equal to number 2. Then for every tab I hit the screen, it will call the flap function, and for every flap the bird make, I will set the velocity to vector 2.0 and my rigid body to add force vector 2.up direction multiplied by flap power. After that, now in the flap function, I will add the sound effect of the flap. It's my audio source that play one shot, bird sounds 0. I will add it later in the inspector. I will drag drop the sound effects in this array, called it bird sounds. After that, I will set the flapping status to number 1. That's all what we need for the flap function. It's ready. Now in the bird Z angle, first if the transform rotation Euler angles is larger than 30 and is lower than 45, I will set the flapping status to number 2. Now if the flapping status is equal to 1, transform rotation will equal to quaternion lerp. That's the first rotation. The target rotation is quaternion Euler 0,0 and 45. Now for the time and the speed of the rotation, I will set it to 1.75 multiplied by time.delta time multiplied by rotation speed. I will do that again for the flapping status will equal to number 2, and I will set the target Z rotation to -50, and here I will change it to 0.3. That's great. Now for the collisions, void on collision, enter 2D collision 2D other game object tag equal to enemy. That's for the ground and the pipes. I will call the death function. Another collision is for on trigger exit 2D collider if other dot game object dot tag equal to score plus, I will call the score plus function. We will assign the score plus function. We will get to that right now. So now in the def function, first I will set the debug.log to def. It's for the debugging process. Then I will set the did boolean to true. After that I will give the sound of the def number 2. Then I will set the animator. I forget to add the animator in the first, but we can use this, but it's more efficient to set it in the value and assign it like the rigid body and the audio source in the beginning in the start function. That's more organized for the script, but I will choose this as another way to show you how to get the component in the function. Now set boolean and the animator is dead to true, and finally I will take the game manager script here dot def. We will get to that later. Now in the score plus function, first I need the game object here, other game object. I'll set it here. For the other game object, get component box collider enabled will equal false. That's when the bird is flying through the pipes. I prevent it from calling the trigger function twice at the same time. It happened to me sometimes, so I set the collider of the other game object to false, and I will set it to true later. Here it's because the other is a collider, I will take the game object to it and set it in the parameter. We forget to add the debug.log score plus. When this function is called when the bird is flying through the pipes, you get 1 point for every 2 pipes you fly through them. Now I will need the audio source, the sound effects of the score for the point you scored, my audio source to play one shot, bird sounds number 1, and finally, and now I need a game manager here, score plus. Now we will create the game manager object and script right now. We have an error here. Let's check it out. Sure, we are forgetting something. The Z, we forgot to add the .z here. Now you can see here the flap power. I will set it to 300. Also I need to set the bird sounds to public, so I can drag and drop the sound effects in it. So the first sound is the flap, the second one is the death sound, and the ring. We set here the death sound is number 2, so the death is the punch sound, sorry. That's great. Now we will create a game manager. I use that to manage the game as a manager. I use it just like a script. We must write it like I will remove the update and the start function. Good. Now I will uncomment these lines. And I must be sure that the name of the game object is game manager and the script is game manager. And here to find it for the game object defined function, I need the same name here in the hierarchy. That's great. Now we need to assign these functions here and the score plus here, score plus also for the death function. That's great. Now we need the Flappy Bird animation, so we will create it right now. Flapping animation. Here in the flapping animation we need to set the sprites that we have over here. So the changing in the animation is on the sprites. The second one is here. That's good. Now I would set this back so it's back and forth. You can see it here. I think it would be great to set it like this. And I think to remove this. I think now would be great. You can see it. Now I will create a new clip, call it death. Now I have set the death sprite. Now in the animator tab, now the flapping status is the default one. Just I will need to remove the loop in the death. Now I will add a boolean as dead. Now I will create a transition and it's true. I think we don't need an exit time. That will be great. Let's give it a test. So here in the debugging you see the bird's angle, and when I hit it's working great, but the Z rotation is not like we want, so we will modify it right now. We set it here to time. We need it to time.delta time. I'm sure that's the problem. Let's give it a test now. Now it's working great. Okay guys, see you in the next video. Bye.